1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. Almost a weekend and you don't know what to do. Or you just need something fun to listen to.
Southside Pod!
Yes, we're on the air.
Pod.
And the gang's all here, all things on the South Side. We're listening to the Southside Pod. Looking for the best Southside breweries. Or you might just need an awesome place to eat.
Southside Pod!
Mount Greenwood, Evergreen,
Southside Pod.
Blue Island, Beverly, Payless, and Allsup 2. You're tuned into the Southside Pod.
Southside Pod!
Oakland, Midlothian,
Southside Pod.
Oak Forest, Chicago Ridge, Flossmoor, and Bridgeview. You're listening to Southside Pod.
I'm on the roof of Open Outcry, Western Avenue in Beverly. Marshall's with me. We've talked before. First time you've been on camera, though.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Wasn't something I was ready for, but hey, I'm,
You look camera ready to me.
Thank you very much.
You look good. You're ready to go.
Everyone always says I have a face for radio. I'm sure you've heard that once or twice before.
As we stand here on the rooftop of Open Outcry along Western Avenue, 109th and Western. Would be
109th and Western, yes,
yeah,
sir.
throw this out to people. And it's a beautiful rooftop that you have here, and a really nice brewery that you have downstairs. We're just having a drink. It's an August day, and I reached out to Marshall. I was like, what are you guys up to these days? And you found me a beer. So I want to get into the beer. I want to talk a little bit about what Open Outcry is doing because, you watch over the years. I mean, I've been doing this podcast network and shows for over 5 years now, and I've watched you guys almost from your infancy just kind of take different steps and stages, and you see with a lot of breweries and restaurants and things around the South Side, so I kind of want to get into that too. But what are we drinking here, first of all?
So you've got the Nelson. That's our newest hazy IPA right now. So the main thing with that one is he's using the New Zealand-style hop. It's called the Nelson is the hop. So it's got a little bit of citrus to it. It's got some... I believe it's gooseberry in there too. Yeah, it's nice. It's as far as our hazies go. Yeah,
it's cloudy.
There you go.
Yeah.
But it's got it's got a sweeter edge to it. That's what you get from that Nelson hop. That was the thing he really tried to work the beer around. We do the things like we got the Delirio and we have the Citrium, and then he got an order of that Nelson, and he was really trying to experiment with that one.
If it isn't a milkshake IPA, it gets close to one, doesn't it? Because just because of the cloudiness and how thick
little
it
bit,
is,
yeah.
It's
So
not exactly. It's a hazy. You would say, yeah.
Right. Yeah, the New Zealand style is always going to be on the cloudier side as opposed to something like a West Coast. But yeah, with that one specifically, it's more like you get juicier notes, stuff like that in there that'll make it all New Zealand.
Oh, it's really good. I mean, it's got a lot of flavor to it, and like that citrus flavor. Something I learned here, I think, was the first brewery I learned this at. They're not adding citrus. The hops gives you that flavor,
yes.
right?
Yes.
Yeah.
It depends on what you do, and a lot of people, like you say, milkshakes especially, they'll add, there's so many adjuncts that go into it after effect. But yeah, for a lot of the ones, especially the ones that we do, our hazies, the citrus is all coming straight out of those hops too. So it's like it's an additional flavor, but it's not like it's an added additional flavor.
That's awesome.
Which is nice because the flavor profile, it expands. It's crazy. You can do a lot of different things in the hazy department,
Yeah. So this brewery, Open Outcry, I remember when it first opened. And the feeling I got from your owner, John Brand, who's been on this show before, was he was opening a brewery.
Yes.
That was the whole idea. You were coming in here, and you were going to get your beer, but you were going to get it here, right? That's where we start. You came in here, you tried different beers. The focus was the beer. If you wanted to bring home a growler or a can of something or something like that, they would do it right there behind the bar.
Exactly.
You got a mug club. And then you had like a separate business that did food out of like a food truck type setup. Like
Correct.
it was a permanent food truck. Then the pandemic hits. And you became a restaurant, probably out of necessity.
Yeah.
You were still a brewery, but you became like a restaurant. And then I want to say about a year ago, I remember talking to John, and he's like, I want to get back to what I started. And now it's brewing beer. This place feels more like a brewery. I mean, it's still got good food,
Sure.
But it's set up almost like a brewery again
Right.
along Western Avenue. That's more of what your focus is the beer. You've got beer on shelves. He's driving all over the place in a delivery truck and spreading it all over the Chicagoland area. Take me through this transition, what it's been like for somebody like you that's been here pretty much since the beginning.
Yes. So it's an interesting story for sure. Like back in the beginning, John started out as he was a home brewer. He was a big finance guy, but he had a passion for beer and selling things like that. And so started working, doing a couple of recon at bars, like learning the business, how it works before he started taking this place over. And then the other thing was, on top of all that, learning how to run a kitchen was just going to be an inefficient use of time. So he had the space. He said, instead of me telling a guy how to run a kitchen that I don't know how to run, we're going to run it like 2 different businesses. And that was what we did for a while. But then as the years go on, you get more comfortable with what he was doing on our side of on the end. He was learning more about the restaurant and the kitchen and all that.
And it's probably a dependency. Let's think about it. When the pandemic hit, remember, breweries had it really tough because all you're trying to do is get people to get takeout beer, right?
Yeah.
And then the world opened up just enough that you weren't doing that anymore, right? And so it kind of hurt them. And having the food aspect, that was probably one of the things that kept this thing going.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. It was crazy because it was, like we had the 32-ounce crowlers, like you said. We weren't doing anything 6-packs like what we're doing now yet. So it was, everything we made was beer was fresh on tap. We were pouring it into crowlers, 32-ounce crowlers ourselves, sealing them behind the bar. And then those are good for anywhere between, 3 to 4 weeks, depending on the beer that you get. And the thing with that was nice, and people loved coming and get beer, but it's like getting a beer alongside 2 pizzas and an appetizer or something for the kids to bring home. Like that was what changed the game completely. Was like, we got our loyal customers and people were coming in every now and then and stopping for beer, which is nice. But yeah, having the food just it definitely changed the game for us, which was a huge part. And he knew that too. That was why.
Oh, it was a big deal.
The kitchen was always going to be essential, but like I said, it
gets away from what the original goal was, right? He was a home brewer.
Oh yeah. He
was like, I want to start brewing beer.
Right.
Now I got this brewery. The brewery happens to be along Western Avenue, which is a very populated area where people it's not like you can put it in a warehouse and just have a tap room.
Oh,
it had to be more than that.
Yeah.
But like now the roots are here. Like you've had the same brewer for coming up on 2 years, same head brewer.
Yes.
Okay, that originally was over at Moore Brewing, came over here if I remember right. So Eric Padilla's been here for a while, and then he's got his shelf basically done now. I've heard brewers say that. Like they know what their big ones are, their year-round ones, what they're probably going to do for certain seasons, and if you're going to start putting it on a shelf, you know which ones people are going to respond to that you can go out and that you can sell. So it's come a long way, I would say, especially in the last year and a half or so.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
And that was always, I want to say, was part of the initial plan from the beginning. Was John wanted open Outcry beer in liquor stores and stuff like that, but taking a brand new beer off the market and throwing it into a store is not going to do well. What you had to do is you got to build the brand up. You got to make beer that people know, that people like, so that when they're out somewhere else and they see it, that's when you go, I've had Speculator before, I'll take a 6-pack.
Right, exactly.
Yeah,
exactly. So what's the summer like right now? I mean, and what does it feel like getting back to that like brewery? Like Main Things Brewery. I know you guys love your food. Your menu's really good. I'm not poo-pooing the food, but I do think it's kind of cool to see the path that you guys are on right now.
Yeah.
And you're knocking out things like this, which is really tasty.
Yeah, leaning more into the beer, like you said, has definitely been something they focused on for sure in the last, I want to say, 6 to 12 months. And that's the thing that's nice too, is hearing the chatter when you come into in the tap room on a Friday night, and it's like it's a lot of people talking about beer. Like I love that. It's hard to replace, and it's one of the things about this industry in general, that the culture is so different, and there's the reason I've stuck around so long, that walking into a place, having somebody like Eric who's killing it on the beer front, he's just putting out bangers after bangers as far as our beer goes, and then sitting down and talking to people, having discussions about the style of hops, and people have different preferences and all that stuff. Being able to just I don't want to say sell in a negative context, but it's just like, you're talking about beer and then talk about
right.
it.
It's the idea of sitting there and like having a discussion about like, where it came from, why it tastes the way it tastes, getting people's feedback on what they have, comparing it to other ones that they've had. I mean, that's really like the roots of like having a brewery. That's why people open breweries.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And that's what, because it's, and the being able to see it be done is, I would say, is an interesting part too. Like if you come in on a Wednesday afternoon and the whole tap room smells like grain because you can see Eric in the back and he's throwing everything, and they're like, that's a fun aspect of it too. But yeah, it's like, the more you talk about it, you're sitting there having a discussion with somebody and just like, actually, the more you talk about it, my mouth is watering as we speak. He's like, why don't you pour me one of those? And then you bounce around. That was another thing too, is I didn't know, when I started working here, I was 21. Like I was drinking as cheap as I could get and sitting around talking to people, and I was like, I didn't know beer was actually allowed to taste good. And then the more you do it, the more you're like, there's the interest.
I've come a long way from Red Dogs myself, my
my
friend.
God.
I think that was the first thing that I was drinking.
And I was ahead of the curve too, because my friends are still like on the fence. Because my fridge at home is basically all craft beer now.
Yeah.
And when people come over, I'm like, dude, just please give me a shot. Like, give this one a try. I know what you're used to drinking. I guarantee you this is better. You know what I mean?
What's the beer then for you right now? Somebody comes walking in, they're like, either they're a craft beer aficionado or there's somebody that's like, I'll just try anything, man. What do you want to put in front of me?
Well,
what do you take out and put in front of somebody right now at Open Outcry?
That would be the gloriousness of what I would call speculator.
Yeah.
Like that's having those 6-packs, I think, has been the biggest thing in the world, because for years I always called it our gateway brew. Like it was like it's the step between craft and not craft, right? So if you're used to hanging out with people, drinking lighter beers and everything, I was like, look, it's good and light. It's not super heavy. It's not going to have, the everything that comes along with the heavier side of craft beers. I was like, give this a try. It's light, it's crisp, it's got more flavor than what you're used to drinking, but it's still gonna, if you're looking for something light that you can drink, that's what Speculator is. So having those 6-packs in my fridge is great. I'm trying to think of. You're putting me on the spot.
Well,
as
you
far
can
as
just say this one.
Yeah.
Let's go with this
Well,
one. What is it called again?
That's the Nelson.
All right.
So that one we're not canning yet, but that one I do have.
I'm talking about when they come walking in here, but you're telling me on your
here?
shelf, get a
for
Speculator.
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, yeah, because you got a whole selection of things.
These two are my probably two favorite on the menu right now. I mean, I love stouts too.
Good job. Just dive on the two that are sitting on the table.
Yeah, right.
That's what you do there.
Well, so the other one we just tapped to is called the Cat Toupee. So it's a West Coast style Pilsner. So it's same thing. It's light like a Pilsner, but he did dry hop it. It's got some of the Simcoe style hops in there, so it's got it's got a little piney flavor to it. It's got more of a West Coast style, but it's still light. It's not going to be overly bitter or anything like when you're used to drinking IPAs. So it's another one like it's a path along the step between regular beer drinkers and craft beer drinkers, which is like I said, it's a lot of the circles that I'm in are one or the other, and I'm trying to be like the Venn diagram square in the middle that's trying to connect the two. But otherwise, yeah, I would say between the Nelson and the Speculator, those are my two favorite. If I'm trying to, if I'm hanging out for a bit, or especially on a hot day like today, I'm probably leaning towards Speculator just because it's light. But like if I'm having one or two beers with dinner, I'm gonna go with a Nelson just because the flavor is just it's something I can't beat at the moment.
Open Outcry Brewing at 109th and Western is a gateway brewery. That's what I'm going to call you from now on, because I love it. It's great. You're a gateway brewery that then will get you hooked on all kinds of really good craft beer, and we're going to go with that. You can see some of their stuff on the shelf. It's a small brewery located in Beverly, Morgan Park area on 109th and Western that after several years is now branching out. So look for them on store shelves, or if you want to make the pilgrimage into Beverly or you're not from here, get on over and try it out. Jump up on this patio. It's beautiful.
Oh, it's gorgeous.
They even have tables that have swings on them.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is crazy.
Right.
I don't use that. I got a bad back and I'll fall off after a couple beers. But I mean, it's fun for the kids.
Oh, yeah, everybody loves it. We got one downstairs.
35-year-old women seem to love them as well.
That's
Every
the
time I come in
demographic
here,
you learn.
that's what it is.
Oh, yeah.
Kids and 35-year-old women.
You're hitting the nail right on the head with that one. That's exactly who it's for. And people love it, like it's a lot of people take a look at it, they go, that's awesome. Maybe not for me.
Yeah.
But everybody else who sits there, it's like, we had the 3 of them in the tap room. Those were the first seats gone Friday through Sunday. Like, it wasn't even a question. It was just like, those were filled in immediately, and then everyone else kind of had to either wait on the side, like, do you know if the swing table's opening up anytime soon? Or we're just like, we'll give it a couple more minutes. We'll see what happens for you.
Marshall, thanks for having us. Cheers.
It's the Southside! It's the Southside! It's the Southside Pod! Thanks for listening! Thanks for tuning in to the Southside Pod! Y'all come back now, you hear?